Oh hey, I didn't see you there. Hey guys, Colin the Big Yoshi here, and today we're going to be talking about Thor the Dark World. The one that everybody hates. Alright. So, this movie came out in 2013, and it is the second film of Marvel's Phase 2. And it's obviously a very hated movie. Everybody says it's the worst film in the entire MCU. So I guess we'll see what I think of it. And I'll just say this right now. Yeah, I think it is my least favorite film in the MCU, but that doesn't mean that I think it's really bad. It just means that it's not as good as the other ones. Okay, so the plot of this movie revolves around Thor has just gotten back to Asgard after the Avengers, and he brings Loki with him. And so Loki's in this jail cell for like half the movie, and then Odin delivers some exposition to the audience about the Dark Elves. And the Dark Elves are these people from like the beginning of time or whatever, and they're just as we don't get a lot of information about them, which is why I don't like them that much. But the stuff we do get about them, I guess, it's not great, but whatever. It's like, yeah, they just came and they just want to fight the Asgardians, and they want the Ether, and the Ether is one of the 6 Infinity Stones. Specifically the Reality Stone. And yeah, they just want to rule the universe, I guess. I don't know. They don't really have any motivations. Now, I think my favorite thing about this movie is that it just kind of expands on more characters. Like, Loki is fleshed out a lot in this movie. Like, I really like him in this movie. In the Avengers, he's just kind of evil, and of course he kind of has motivations for being mad at the world, but in this movie he's a lot better because he's kind of like an anti-hero in this one. Because in all of these movies he's gone from like a good guy to a bad guy, and then he's kind of just stayed an anti-hero, and then kind of permanently settled at a good guy for the rest of the movies. And I think that the actors have just, like, especially him, they've really figured out their roles, because I think that in Thor 1, Loki is just kind of dopey, like I said in the Avengers review. In Avengers, he definitely improved a lot, but in this one, I think that he really nailed Loki's, like, how broken he is and how mad he is at the world and stuff. And I didn't think they did the greatest job of showing it in Avengers, but in this movie he's great. Like, halfway through the movie when the Dark Elves kill Frigga, Thor and Loki's mom, Loki plays it off like it's fine, like he doesn't care at all. But then when Thor goes to talk to him, Thor's like, hey, remove your illusion. And then Loki does, and you see that he's just like on the floor, and he's just like all messed up because he's like so mad that they killed her, and he wants vengeance. And I think Thor has also really figured out his role. He was already good in Thor 1, but you could tell that he didn't know exactly how to work out his role yet. In Avengers, he was also pretty good. No real complaints there, but in this movie he's really good too. So yeah, he hasn't changed a lot. And I guess we have like Odin, and Odin hasn't really done much either. He's just kind of there in this movie. He's just kind of there in all the movies because Anthony Hopkins is a very expensive actor. So yeah. And the people that have not evolved were the side characters. They're given some like funny lines. there's like this one funny joke, including all of them, about they threaten Loki not to kill Thor, but that's really all they do in this entire movie. They don't do anything, like, ever. I mean, I guess Sif gets expanded on a little bit because you could tell that she really loves Thor. I mean, I guess she has a crush on Thor. I don't know. When she glares at Jane. But yeah, they haven't improved at all. I would like those characters if they were expanded on more. Like, if they were more fleshed out. But they weren't. And that's why I don't like them. They just don't do anything in these movies. Which is probably why they are killed off in Ragnarok. But yeah. I guess I'll talk about the villain in this movie. The villain is a total downgrade from Loki. Like, Loki was a great villain because he had motivations and because he felt betrayed by Odin and pretty much everyone. He's like, I've been lied to my entire life. But then we go from that great character to, I mean, I guess if you want to call the main villain of Thor Laufey, that's fine too. But Laufey doesn't really do anything, so we're just going to ignore him. We move from Loki to Malekith. And Malekith is, like everyone knows, he's the most boring villain in the entire MCU. He has no motivations whatsoever. He doesn't even have a single, like, bit of character growth. He doesn't even have a character. He has, like, no personality whatsoever. He's kind of like Ronan from Guardians of the Galaxy because he's just a guy who doesn't really have any motivations, but he just wants one of the Infinity Stones. But Ronan was meant to be generic, and this guy is supposed to be like a serious threat, but I can't take him seriously if he doesn't feel like a real person at all. He doesn't even have one single, like, emotion or character trait throughout the entire movie. And even his lackeys, all the Dark Elves, they just are there. And can I just say their design is really weird as well. Like, they have these weird masks that look like Shy Guys from Super Mario. So that's really random. And they have no motivations either, and they're just boring. Whatever. And I guess the main Dark Elf as well, Curse, he has no motivations either. What a surprise. He is just this big guy, and he volunteers to become more powerful, basically, and that is it. He's just a big guy, and he dies, and he's not even the main villain, so I don't know. So, yeah, there's this one part in the movie where right after, like, Curse becomes this big, strong guy, Malekith is like, okay, now we're gonna go invade Asgard. And then they just fly off, and they cut to a scene where in the jail cell, like the dungeons that in Asgard, they're just there, and they're being captured. How did they even get there in the first place? I don't understand. And also, I noticed this small little continuity error about that jail part with Loki. It's a continuity error because of Endgame and the time traveling. Because in Endgame, they have this part where they go back to this movie to get the ether. But then it doesn't make sense because you see the part where Loki is throwing, like, this cup up in the air and stuff and catching it just because he's bored. But that's the exact part, basically, where the Dark Elves break out and start killing people. So the whole time that Thor and Rocket were there, they weren't, like, invaded by Dark Elves. So, I mean, that's just kind of a continuity error, but whatever. They do say don't question the time travel at all. And I also noticed a little continuity error. Well, I guess it's not really a continuity error, it's just kind of weird. So, Jane Foster from the first movie, she gets, like, infused with the ether. The ether, like, she like gets teleported into this place where the ether is kept, and then it like infects her. And Odin's like, yeah, no, I don't know how to get rid of that thing, sorry. But then in Endgame, Tony knows how to get rid of it? Or maybe it was Rocket? I don't know. How do the Avengers know how to get rid of it when Odin is the one who should know more about that stuff? It doesn't make sense. But whatever, that's just a few little continuity errors. And it's really Endgame's fault, I guess. Not really this movie's fault. I just noticed it. Something weird about this movie as well is that it's kind of a weird movie because it can be pretty funny at times. Like, I'm of the opinion that, I mean, the human parts can be pretty funny sometimes. Like, the part where they're on a date and it's really awkward because Darcy just comes in. That's pretty funny. But the tone keeps shifting. That's the problem. It can be pretty funny. Like, the hammer part in the final battle where, like, the hammer, Mjolnir doesn't know where to go. It just keeps, like, flying back and forth because Thor keeps teleporting. But then it also goes from really, like, emotional because their mom dies and they're all sad and stuff. And then it goes from, like, just really dark because Thor snaps someone's neck and Loki gets murdered in, like, the most brutal way possible. He, like, stabs Curse through the heart, but then Curse just goes, like, Hugh! So that's a great representation. So that Loki gets impaled as well. And it's really dark. But of course we know that Loki doesn't die, so that's fine. It's just a little subversion expectation. And I do like the little twist because I didn't see it coming. I probably should have seen it coming when I first saw this movie in theaters. Like how he was actually Odin in the end. But I didn't see it coming because I was like a stupid, like, I don't know, 8-year-old or something. Some other stuff that I like is that it connects to the Avengers pretty well. Like, I talked about in my Iron Man 3 review how I like how there's some references to the Avengers. Like, you have Dr. Banner in the after-credit scene. And it made it more acceptable to have the other guys in this universe after the Avengers. Like, in this movie, Jane slaps Thor in the face because she's like, where were you? I haven't seen you for, like, a year. And she's like, I saw you on the news. You were fighting everybody, you know? You were fighting the Chitauri. And Selvig, as soon as he hears that Loki's died, he's like, oh, thank God, because, you know, he's been possessed by Loki. And they even continue that Selvig kind of goes crazy because of the stuff that happened with him and Loki. At first I thought that they were ruining Dr. Selvig because they just made him a weirdo, but I actually kind of like him now. Like, that part, the part where he's crazy kind of goes away after a little while, so it's not that bad. It's just kind of weird. And speaking of, like, the humans, they keep building the romance with Jane Foster, which I don't mind because I didn't mind that plot in the first Thor, and I thought they had pretty good chemistry in the first movie, or at least I didn't notice if it was bad. But in this movie, oh god, they have no chemistry whatsoever. Like, Natalie Portman and Chris Hemsworth, they have no romantic chemistry whatsoever. And sorry I went on a little tangent, but yeah, I like the part where Loki turns into Captain America. That's pretty funny as well. They add in this new character to the movie named Ian, and I mean, he's fine, he's a nice addition, I guess, but they never bring him back, or any of the humans. And I think that's probably a good thing, but I didn't mind them. I thought they were fine. Now, I guess we could talk about the final battle and the ether itself. So, I thought it was kind of overly convenient that, like, how they found the ether in the first place. It was like some random stuff started happening to Earth where there's these magic portals, and then Jane goes through one of the portals by accident, and then she ends up in this cave with the ether. So that was kind of overly convenient, and it feels it was like Well, the director said so, so you know it had to happen. And I guess let's talk about the conclusion now. So, I kind of like that Thor and his friends commit treason because it kind of fits their character, and it feels like something they would do. And obviously, Loki's death is pretty sad until we realize it didn't actually happen. And real quick, I just want to say, Thor and Loki's chemistry and their banter is really great in this movie. Even greater than in Avengers in the first one. So the final battle. I kind of like the way that they use the Reality Stone. Like, they have all these magic portals and stuff, and everything just starts going weird. But it feels kind of random that it starts doing this. I don't know. It feels weird to, like, make the whole movie based on these, like, the whole final battle based on these portals. And it's kind of funny, but it doesn't feel like a real battle where Malekith and Thor just keep teleporting places while they're fighting. It feels more like a joke than anything. But yeah, the final battle is pretty good, I guess. After they stopped doing that. It's just not very memorable. This whole movie isn't very memorable. That's the problem with it. And I have this one nitpick about the final battle, though. So there's this part with the subway. There's this, like, funny scene where Thor has to take the subway because of reasons. Because he, like, got teleported far away. Why can't Thor just, call Mjolnir? It's not good. It was just there. We saw it flying around. It wasn't stuck underneath anything or anything like that. He could definitely call for it, but he didn't. But I guess it was kind of funny, so whatever. A few last things now. Yeah, the conclusion's good and everything. And let's talk about, like, the after credit scenes. So, we have our first look at the Guardians of the Galaxy movie. And I completely forgot why in Infinity War the Collector had the Reality Stone. That just goes to show how unmemorable this movie is. But yeah, we have the first look at Guardians, we have the first talking about Infinity Stones. And they say it's not wise to keep 2 Infinity Stones in Odin's treasure room, which, makes sense. So yeah, this movie was really mixed for me, I think. I thought I liked it, but now just, like, reading a bunch of this, I thought that it was more mixed than I thought. So I'm going to give this movie a 3 out of 5. Just, like, the middle of the scale, because it's not great, but it's not terrible either, so, it's definitely the worst MCU movie so far, but, I don't think it's terrible. It's just the high pedigree of all the other films makes this one stand out more as a bad one. Now, if you liked my review, then maybe leave a like and subscribe. That would be pretty legit. I really need to stop now. So yeah, we're moving on to a lot of people's favorite, Captain America, the Winter Soldier tomorrow. Bye, guys.